Hello everyone, my name is Cindy Winget. I am the author of some Gothic horror mashups, and welcome to my channel. So this is going to be my September wrap-up video, but before we get started, I just wanted to show you guys that I have the physical copy of my book. Yay! I'm so excited. I just got my author copies and I just wanted to show it off. So here it is, just in time for spooky season, which I'm very excited for because there is a Halloween party in this, and so I think it would be perfect for this time of year. So I was so glad to get it done in time for Halloween. So yay, just wanted to share the happy news with you guys. So outside of that, my September reading month was kind of a disappointment. I did not have a very good reading month this month. So I didn't get as much read as I wanted to, and the things that I was picking up just weren't necessarily great. So I ended up having 3 DNFs. So let's go ahead and start with those. My first being, don't be mad at me, You. I DNF'd this book. And I know it's so beloved and people love this, but I didn't realize how much and how explicit the sexual content in this was going to be. I hear that the TV show is turned down a lot, like it's a lot more tame than the book. But I didn't want to watch the show until after I'd read the book. But the book, it has a lot of sexual content in it, and that's just not for me. I just don't like reading about that. And it makes sense given the subject matter because this guy is stalking this woman, and so he's kind of voyeuristically looking through her windows and stuff, so it kind of makes sense. But even so, it's just not something I want to read. So unfortunately, I decided to DNF this one. And then I also DNF'd 2 NetGalley arcs that I had. One of them being a murder mystery novel called Miss Winter in the Library with the Knife, which I love because it's very Clue-like, and I love Clue, and I thought this would be really fun. This is a good read to pick up during December because it takes place around Christmas and it's very snowy and everything. And so not quite the vibe I was looking for right at this moment, but it's an arc, so I have to get it read before then. But unfortunately, I just didn't end up liking this one too much. In the beginning, I was really enjoying it, and there was one character in particular that I was quite invested with. He was a murder mystery writer, and so I really enjoyed his POV. And we have this group of writers that go to this house in the country, and they're supposed to be part of this game where they're going to solve the mystery, and then they win money and acclaim and all of this stuff. And people thought that he might have an advantage over everyone else because he writes murder mysteries. He is quite prolific, even though his books didn't really make it too far. Like, he's not super well known, but he has written a lot of books. He wrote like 32 novels or something. So people are like, oh, he's gonna go far in this game. We gotta watch out for him, But everybody else was just kind of surface level. Like, I didn't know these people. I couldn't tell you their names. I couldn't tell you anything about them. I just wasn't connecting to them. And then after the setup, it's like nothing was happening. They're just sitting around talking, doing nothing. And I got to the 40% mark and they still hadn't started the game. And I'm like, okay, everybody's here. Everybody knows about it. Let's get going. Let's start the game. Let's get into the murder mystery. But they're just standing around doing nothing, just talking. I just got so bored, and it was a shame because, like I said, I liked the setup. I liked I1 main character. Can't remember his name. It's like Harry Crystal or something. But yeah, so I was really looking forward to it. I thought it was going to be fun, but it just ended up taking too long to get into and just got very stalled and very boring. So I think the pacing is really off on this book. So just know that going into it if you decide that you want to pick it up. And then the next one I DNF'd was Shiny Happy People. This is the newest by Clay Malloy Chapman. This is a YA novel. I believe this is his first YA novel. I haven't seen anything from him that I would consider YA before. And I just did not like the writing. I don't know if he was just trying too hard to be a teenager and it just wasn't coming across well. But I found these teenagers insufferable and I didn't like the writing style. And I just couldn't get into this one at all. So I decided to give up. So I can't even tell you what it's about, to be honest, because I don't remember. Sorry. So if you want to know what it's about, you're gonna have to look it up for yourself. And then I did have one more NetGalley arc, and that was The Graceview Patient by Caitlin Starling, and I was very, very excited for this one. I thought it sounded amazing, and I love medical horror because I'm really into Frankenstein and sci-fi horror and stuff like that. So I thought this could be right up my alley. But I'm starting to understand that Caitlin Starling is just not the author for me. I enjoyed The Death of Jane Lawrence up until the end. The end kind of ruined it, but I liked it up until then. But everything else I've read from this author I haven't liked, and this was no exception. And in the beginning, I did like it. I thought it was intriguing and it was interesting. And we have this woman who has this rare disease, and she is going to be staying at the hospital for like 2 months in order to undergo this experimental treatment to see if she can get rid of her disease. But the thing is it pretty much ruins your immune system, and so she has to be quarantined inside the hospital for a few months. And then she starts to realize that maybe something nefarious is going on and isn't all that it appears to be, which sounds amazing in theory, but in execution it just wasn't, because it got to a point where it was just very repetitive, and it was just like medical stuff over and over and over and over, and the plot never really went anywhere, and nothing really spooky happened. Like maybe 1 or 2 minor spooky things happened, but not really. And then at the end, you kind of understand what's happening. I mean, I feel like it's pretty ambiguous, but at the same time, they give you just enough that you sort of know what's going on. But it was just so unsatisfying. It was just like medical stuff, medical stuff, medical stuff, mystery, mystery, mystery. And then, oh, here's kind of an ending, the end. Like, it wasn't creepy, it wasn't scary. I don't know. It wasn't what I wanted. And I feel like this was a letdown for me personally. So I think I'm probably going to be done with this author. It's a shame because her books always sound good, but again, the execution, not so much. So this is probably a 2-star for me. And then I got a couple of books from the library, one being Can You Solve the Murder? And I'm not going to tell you anything about this because I have a whole entire video coming out about this book. So if you want to hear my thoughts about this book, then wait for the video. So that's all I'll say about it. And then I also got Night Watcher. This is a serial killer thriller. I thought it was pretty decent. I thought it was pretty good. And this is about a woman who takes over her dad's late night show or podcast or something. And it talks about, the supernatural or the unexplainable or UFOs or, stuff like that. And so one caller calls in saying that she thinks somebody's in her house and she thinks it's a ghost. And then, on the phone call that she's calling in, they can hear different things, and then she screams, and then the call ends. And then they find out the next day that she had been murdered in her house. And so now they're trying to figure out what's going on. And our main character had survived a serial killer earlier in her life. I can't quite remember his name. The Hiding Man? I think it's The Hiding Man. And so she was the survivor. She actually watched her babysitter be murdered right in front of her, but the serial killer left her alive. And so this new serial killer that has cropped up seems like a copycat of that. And so she doesn't know if it's the original serial killer because he was never found, or if this is a copycat. And so she's trying to figure that out. But yeah, I thought this was a really decent thriller. For whatever reason, it took me way too long to read this book. I don't know why. It wasn't because it was a bad book. It wasn't because the pacing was off. I really did enjoy it. But I was kind of like, okay, why is this book taking so long to read? But that's probably a personal thing. But yeah, I had fun with this one. I would give it 4 stars. And then after DNFing you, I only got to 2 more of the books from my TBR, which really pains me. It was the same last month where I couldn't get to all of the books. And I always feel bad when I can't get to all of them. I feel almost obligated to read them because I showed you guys a TBR video and I want to, tell you what I thought about them, but I just didn't end up being able to read them all this month. So the only other 2 besides you that I DNF'd that I got to this month was Death at Morning House. This is a YA thriller about this girl who spends the summer on this island, and basically this group of teenagers is overseeing this museum at this house on this island where a bunch of murders took place, and they kind of have the run of the house by themselves because their boss is busy writing a book and she doesn't really come around very often. So this is kind of a double timeline because we're getting the present chapters, but then we're also seeing the timeline from when the murders took place. And I felt like the past POV was pretty interesting, and I wanted to know what happened to this family where the kids started dying and people thought there was a curse on their family. And I thought it was pretty interesting, but I didn't really find this book necessarily mysterious. It was pretty straightforward, just like telling you the story. But the present chapters I just couldn't connect with. I didn't really care for our main character. I didn't really care for anything that was going on. And I felt like the present chapters and the past chapters only sort of connected in a way, but not really. Like by the end, I mean, this could have been two different stories, except for they happen to die in like similar ways. And that's really the only connection. But I don't know. I felt like this was just okay. I didn't love it the way I wanted to. Normally, I really connect to Maureen Johnson's books and characters and writing style, but in this one, it just didn't quite work for me. So it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either, and I'd probably just give this about a 3-star. And then the other one I read was Local Woman Missing, and I actually really did like this one a lot. I thought it was really fun. Again, it wasn't like mind-blowing, like the twists didn't absolutely blow me away, but I thought this was a really good thriller, and I really enjoyed my time reading it. This also has different POVs and different timelines. There's like a lot of things going on because we have this girl who was kidnapped, but then we also have a couple of women who have gone missing. And so there's just like a lot of things interconnecting and going on, which kept the pacing really good and kept me invested. And I just really enjoyed this one. I would give it 4 stars. And then for my book club, the pick was When the Day Comes, and this is a historical novel about this girl who lives simultaneously in 2 different timelines. So she is born in 2 different places at the exact same time, essentially. So she's born in 1775 colonial America during the Revolutionary War. But then she also lives in New York City in 1915 during like the suffrage and all of that. And so what happens is she lives a day in one timeline, and then as soon as she falls asleep, she wakes up in the other timeline, and then she'll fall asleep and then wake up in the other timeline, and she just toggles back and forth until her 21st birthday. And then when you turn 21, you have to decide which timeline you want to stick with. So this one had a lot of twists and turns and a lot of angst in it, which I enjoyed. I love the drama. I do wish there was a little bit more historical stuff. I love history, and I wanted a little bit more as far as the history goes, but that was kind of surface level, just kind of this is the setting rather than anything to actually do with history. And I felt like the middle was a little bit slow, and I was kind of not super invested, but it did get me by the end. By the end, I was very invested and very emotionally attached, and I thought the ending was phenomenal. I thought it ended very, very well. So by the end of it, I would give this 4 stars. Not quite a 5-star because, like I said, the middle was a little bit slower, but I thought this was really well done. I thought this was a really fun book, and I will definitely be continuing in this series because I think there's like 6 of them. And then the last book I read is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, and I just wanted to get something to gear me up for spooky season. I want to read books in October that actually are taking place around Halloween, and this one doesn't, but I thought I'd just kick off the vibes with this book because I've very much been looking forward to this. This was a very anticipated book for me, so I just wanted to kick things off with this. But unfortunately, this book let me down. So I did not really enjoy this one. Probably only going to give it 2 stars. First of all, the main character was insufferable. I think this is probably one of the most unlikable characters I've ever read. She was narcissistic, she was vain, she was selfish, she was self-absorbed. Pretty much everything. She just used men, including her father. She was entitled. Like, I just did not like this main character at all. And she was okay with people cheating. She's like, oh, who cares if people cheat on their husbands or whatever? Good for them. Like, ugh. I did not like her. And I could not connect with her on any level. And unfortunately, this book ended up being more of a family drama than a horror book. I feel like the haunted house stuff was just like window dressing. But, I mean, I do like what it was trying to do. It's like Such Sharp Teeth, where it was kind of like an allegory. The werewolf stuff was meant to be like people that are pregnant or raped or different things in their life where they don't have any control over their bodies. And I really liked that parallel, and I think she was trying to do that again with this, where the possession of the house or the haunting in the house was supposed to be an allegory for childhood trauma and abuse. And so I liked the thought behind it, but I thought the execution was lacking. And I really wanted this book to be just a little bit spookier, a little bit scary, but it really wasn't scary at all. I mean, it had, some creepy elements to it, but nothing was truly ever scary or creepy in my opinion. So it didn't work on that level because it just didn't feel like a horror novel. I felt like I was just reading like a family drama, chick lit type books with just a little hint of, the supernatural in it. And I felt like the ending was really unsatisfying. So I don't know, this one just didn't do it for me. And I'm so sad to say that because I really was very much looking forward to this. And there is a few sex scenes in this as well. And like I've said multiple times before, I just don't really like sex scenes in my books. It is brief, so I did appreciate that, but none of her other books had it, so I don't know why we needed it in this one, but whatever. So yeah, this was a miss for me. Probably, like I say, 2 stars. I would give it 1 star, but she is still a good writer and it was propulsively readable. Like I flew through this book, and so I will give her kudos for that. But yeah, I just didn't really like this book. This is probably my least favorite of hers so far, unfortunately. So that's it. That's all the books I read in the month of September. I hope October goes better. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. Please subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. I post every Friday, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.